Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League, to the peak of Season 2 and to the final race of Season 2. A 2.4-hour race, one of the biggest challenges RENNSPORT has to offer at the moment. And to get you through the evening, I'm not alone here today. I'm not only joined by Tim Ireland, but we also have one guest back you might recognize from a long time ago, because Remco Major is back here in the booth to support us. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Hello to everyone on Twitch. And hello to you, Lena, and of course, Remco.
Yeah, thank you for having me on this beautiful evening. Of course, the real 24-hour of the Nürburgring is going on, and here we have a great event. It's the 2.4 hours of the Nürburgring. It's the last round of this season, and there's a lot to play for.
Yeah, we still have an open championship to decide, and of course, it is a lot about glory in this race, isn't it? It is one of the most challenging tracks you can drive a 2.4-hour race on, and just the distance alone on a day like this, on most parts, especially here in Europe, it is very hot. So don't be surprised if anybody sounds exhausted, or drives exhausted, who knows. But especially you, Remco, you have a lot of endurance experience. What do you think the weather and the heat will do to the drivers here today?
Oh boy, it's gonna be a lot of sweat, a lot of drinking whilst driving, and not the alcohol type, of course, because that's not gonna go well. But you have to stay hydrated. After a while, it is gonna hurt your lap times. It's gonna hurt your consistency, and definitely on a track like this, no mistakes allowed. If you go a little bit over the limit and you go into the grass, there's most definitely a wall meeting you after. You don't want to go in there, although damage is disabled, still it will lose you a lot of time. Big chance for spinning out. And 2.4 hours, although it doesn't sound like a lot, if you drive it as a single driver, it is gonna take its toll, and definitely with the heat these days, I bet you they are having their air conditioners on full blast in their rooms.
If they are lucky to have one. But yeah, Tim, you've been here throughout the season with me. Actually, you did one race without me, I think. But you know most of the drivers we see here today. We have two splits, so this is the top split of drivers. What do you think we will see here today in terms of fighting to the line?
Yeah, we had a really great sign-up number for today's race. So we have got two splits, like you said. So these should be the top end of those guys on the split that we're showing today. We weren't showing anything from split 2, I don't think. What do I expect, though? Well, there's been a few changes to RENNSPORT this week, which we'll probably talk about later on, which throw a little spanner into the works as far as people's preparation's concerned. It's not quite the same GT3s they've been driving for the rest of the season. But yeah, hopefully some good hard racing, nothing too crazy, and maybe a bit of lapping going on, which is not we've had a little bit of in previous rounds, but I'm expecting there to be a bit more of it in today.
Well, the lucky thing for these drivers is that the biggest changes are actually in the ABS and the traction control. Mostly in the ABS from the top of my head. It's not like there's an entire different tire model like the Porsche Cup has. So I bet you they will adjust to it quite quickly. Definitely the better drivers out there. So like Maximilian Dane, he will be probably very quick out of the box, and even with the changes, it won't like scare him at all.
No, and I guess the biggest unknown is what it's going to do to tyre wear, which obviously 2.4 hours. I think you could technically do 2.4 hours without changing tyres, as long as you're not locking up and skidding too much. And the changes to TC and ABS might make a little bit of difference there. It might be better, it might be worse, depending on how you drive. But I guess we'll soon find out.
Well, one advantage is that Nordschleife is a lot of like long straights, and it's quite a tight track, so you don't want to push all the times because otherwise you go off track, which
Yeah.
also in turn like saves your tires. So it might not be as bad as some may think. I bet you most of them won't take tires because it's gonna be about just a bit more than 2 stints.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But yeah, they're qualifying now, right? Or
we are right now in qualifying. We are watching Alizaya, but this race, as said previously, also has championship implications. So these drivers now have 2 laps in qualifying, and qualifying yields points. And if you look at the gaps, especially from P3 downwards, they are pretty tight. Dominic Lala has a comfortable lead, but it all could still come down in this very race.
exactly, Maximilian Dane is 12 points behind Dominic Ladler. I spoke to Maximilian Dane, of course, before the race. Good friend of mine. And he spoke about doing a last first challenge, but he can't exactly start from the back of the grid because, as you said, qualifying gives points. And those 12 points, he really wants to gain on Dominic. He can't just not qualify and lose out on a good amount of points. So it does make Maximilian Dane actually qualify because of this point system, which I really like.
Well, another factor of the point system is it's based on the number of people who compete, which, as we said before, today's 2 splits, so that's a larger number of people involved, which means more points for the winner.
Yeah, I mean, the points payout is higher. Assuming that Dominic Lala and Maximilian Dehn, where we expect them to finish, there's of course the set gap of points. You have a certain fixed gap, and then of course based on the amount of people who drive. But Dominic Lala really can't afford to have a blunder here. We've seen him have one in the GT4s this season. But he also had some very, very strong drives. But he really needs one of those to secure his second title on this track.
Yeah, he's not been as Mr. Consistent as he usually is this season. But it's a 2.4-hour race. He's got plenty of time to be consistent in that. I believe in you, Dominic. You can do it.
Well, yes, a tough task ahead. As said, Maximilian Dane is in the race. Not like I'm preferring him, but I just know he's a very strong driver and he does have the consistency. So he must have a very good drive, Dominic Ladler, to actually battle him. But don't let it take away, there are more drivers in this field. One special mention is David Baker, who is actually a controller player, which shows that you can actually race a Nordschleife with a controller as well, which is great because at the end of this year, RENNSPORT will come to consoles.
That's actually a very good point you mentioned there. He's currently 14th in the standings. He hasn't contested every single round, but he has done very well for himself, and establishing himself as one of the better one of the better controller contenders. Very hard to pronounce that. But he's shown that he can be competitive on pretty much everything. So I'm looking forward to where this develops. So we have, of course, the favorites going into this race, but he's always kind of a dark horse. If you think back to some RCL races. But the first lap times are in, and Dominic Lala is actually currently in P1, but Enrico Boningo's not doing his second lap, must be pretty happy with his first try. In second in that Aston Martin.
Yeah, that's a very good lap time. Enrico, I've seen his lap times before. They're not always the best, but this one is quite strong. It's second place for now. And I can tell you, my time trial lap is actually an 8:08 as well. So he is right on my pace, but it's... Oh, well, it's not right on my pace, but Dominic Ladler is. I was looking at the wrong lap time, but he is quite close to it, because even though it is 5 seconds, it's a Nordschleife, it's a long track. 5 seconds is not that much. And I bet you he will be happy with his lap time.
can be proud of that,
Got-
I think. It puts him in a good spot. We see some people who go for a second lap, Dominic Laddler being one of them. I think we were on Denhood just cancelled his second try after having a slowdown in Schumacher is. But Cesco Munera also seems to be on a strong comeback drive. He struggled a lot in recent times, and I hope I don't curse him this early into the race day here, but he's currently in 5th.
Can I just say that I probably was not right about Maximilian Dane, because I see him as a DNF. And he hasn't set a lap time, he hasn't gone out. Am I right that he has done that?
He
Or-
has, yeah. There's a few people have DNF'd, which I believe are going to go from the back of the grid. So we've got Tim Schroeder, Max Dean, Kimi Harpler, all seem to DNF very close together.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really interesting. It will definitely give a very interesting race. There will be a lot of overtaking then, because as I said, Maximilian Dane does want to win. I'm not sure how many points he will lose by not qualifying.
Well, currently it would be 3 to Dominic Laddler, which is not a little amount, but I'm more surprised that they do it in this field. It's not like this is your typical field we have here. You have pretty high strength of field, average-wise, and of course they might have the pace to get up to 8th fairly quickly, or 9th, but it isn't that easy to get up the order, and especially when you get to the points of Cesco Munera, he won't be easy to pass.
Wait, did Enrico Browninger just drop in the standings?
He's still in
It does
second.
so on my app. Could be just on my end. But Maximilian Dane, I know, does like, if not quicker, at least the same lap time as Dominic Laddler. There we go. He actually
He
did
actually
DNS.
drop. That is very surprising.
What happened there?
Yeah, he disappeared off the server for a minute. His name went grey on my standings. Same as Dennis Kurtzer is right now. I think they're having a few technical problems.
Interesting.
Couple-
But as I wanted to say, Maximilian Dane has a very quick lap time, and as you can see, like, second place Rowan Den Hoed has an 8:14.4. He will be much quicker than that. He will gain so many seconds per lap that I bet you within 2 laps, which is still quite a while because these are long laps, I bet you he will be at the front, and then we will see if he has the pace to gain back that entire time lost towards Dominic Laddler.
A couple of people still out there trying to improve, one of them being OG Stan. Also one you would expect to be a bit more consistent in the race rather than a fast qualifier. But he definitely has some positions still to gain in this practice session, or in this qualifying session rather said. His first lap being way off what we usually see from him.
And I got a message from our going for the championship Maximilian Dane, and he actually just crashed.
Oh.
That is very
Okay.
interesting.
I'm not sure if his car crashed or his game crashed, but that's gonna be interesting.
Meanwhile, Alizaya, who's in 3rd, he has of course not taken part on a second lap, but that could be a very interesting starting point for him. Right behind Ron, of course. These two do have history from last week.
They like each other a lot, I've heard.
Tim Schroeder reporting
Enrico
some electrical
Bräuninger
issues.
seems to... Yeah, Enrico Bräuninger seems to have rejoined the server, so hopefully he'll be back at the race start.
They have a small practice session before the race to get things going before the race, of course. So it isn't the end of the world for them. They still have enough of opportunity to get dialed in with the car for the race.
I mean, if you've got the pace, you can always overtake around this track, even though like a lot of it is turns and quite narrow. There are also some quite high-speed parts where you can actually overtake even on the tighter parts. I've done it before to Rowan actually in the M2, if you remember.
I mean, you even have
even
that
though
clip on social media.
Yeah, exactly, and that was a tiny tap, but it is possible. And then of course you've got Dottinger Ho. I mean, that's the longest straight. You can side draft. You can, if you get a good run out of the last turn before Dottinger Ho, because of course there are still the chicane near the end. You can definitely like gain a few positions if they are line of turn, and of course the GP track you can overtake. So pretty much most of the Nordschleife you try to get to the back of the cars, but there are enough places where you can overtake as well.
In chat, we just got a report from Maximilian Dehn saying that his AC fuse burned. It's kind of ironic with what happened at the real 24 hours of Nordschleife just a couple of hours ago. I'm not sure if that's a bad omen. We hope to stay live with you throughout the evening. So, yeah, maybe let's not make that the big topic of the day and just enjoy some racing.
But a few people just circulating on their second laps right now. Hopefully, they're all pretty near the end of the lap, so they should be able to finish it before the time runs out.
Should be plenty
David
of time
Baker's
to do
making a yeah. David Baker's making a big improvement. He's got a lot of green sectors. Oh, but he just went off track. I immediately cursed him.
Maybe you can
Good
still
job.
salvage a bit of it. I mean, you get a slowdown, but you are able to finish the lap, actually.
Yeah.
Of course, one thing
It's just he'll get...
we will definitely
Oh, he
keep
got a slow up just before Dottinger, so it's not too bad.
Okay, then. But one thing we will keep an ear on, definitely throughout the evening, is the new AMG sound, which sounds absolutely beautiful. And we have a couple of AMGs in the field which are competitive, so I'm sure we will see plenty of that V8, or hear plenty of that V8 into the race. But then it looks like an easy way to improve the lap time. And indeed goes 7th. Just improved that a little bit to stay in front. And Shui Percival, new name on the list, goes P5. And David Baker, the last one, still doing a lap time here. Let's see if he can improve. And to which position it is. Cross the line.
He popped up into 9th. So yeah, it was a good improvement
that's only
by him.
4 tenths quicker. Those two are close together.
Yeah.
Well, now first of all, of course, going into the practice session. But what do you guys think is the importance of qualifying in this race? 2.4 hour race, day-night cycle, lots of challenges. What does it mean starting on top?
Not much. As I said, like the difference in lap time, which we are seeing. I mean, they will overtake pretty quickly. It will do a lot on the GP track already. And of course, if you get up to someone's behind, you've got Dottinger Ho to overtake. So, you know, it should not be as hard as, for example, a street circuit like we have, where you just need to do risky moves and outbrake people. Over here, you can just slipstream and draft past if you want. So I doubt it's gonna matter too much, but of course, Dominic Ladler is on the other side of the field than Maximilian Dehn. So Maximilian Dehn needs to overtake quite a few people. So it definitely has an advantage, but not as huge as you think it will be.
Might have on some drivers a bit of a mental impact. Of course, if you are confident throughout qualifying, it helps you being confident in the race. But yeah, as you said, it's a long race, lots of stuff that
Yeah.
can happen, even with a lot of factors not being the case here.
But then again, it gives you hope, like false hope, and when that hope gets shattered, it hits twice as hard.
Wow, you're so optimistic, Remco.
I know, I just experience. I've had many times where, like, proper teams, I was in the same race as them, and they also did like a weird strategy and got up behind me, and then just shattered my hopes of ever finishing in front of them. So I know how it goes.
Because it's not super high level esports here, and mistakes can happen. So there is some advantage, I think, to being at the front of the grid and not having to worry about getting caught in contacts in the first couple of laps. I know they do happen, shock horror, the Nürburgring, and not having to worry about that is definitely a bonus.
I mean, turn 1 in the Nürburgring GP track is a hairpin. And if you remember, a certain Nico Nuninghoff at Spa, going from P15 to P2,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not gonna be that hard if you do it right, but of course it will always bring risk with it, like you said.
yeah.
But let's see how Max will will go about that, because it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, rolling start as well, which will be interesting definitely to come towards the green light. One small thing from the second split, if you want to follow that more closely, you can, so we have a bit of contact here in the practice session, but if you want to follow that, you can check it out on the app. But the pole sitter there is Valentino Alderizo, followed by Luciano Icaso, a name you may have heard way back in RCL. And then Piotr Zadalbe, I think that's a name most people can associate to one of the most clean drivers we have here in RENNSPORT.
Yeah, for sure. He's very clean, very consistent. I'd expect to see him sneaking his way up the order as that race carries on.
And of course, the first points being awarded means that championship-wise, few things have changed. The 3-point gap between Dominik Ladler and Maximilian Dehn extending. For Ronan Hood, 2 points, Alizaya 1 point. For the second split, those points will be halved. So Icaso with 1 point, Aloisi with 1.5 points. And what's special for this race compared to the rest of the season, if you complete half distance, you also get a bonus point.
Just one?
Just one for this one. But yeah, just people now getting dialed in with their machinery. I mean, you as a very experienced driver in that Remco, I will ask you a lot this evening.
Go ahead.
How much importance do you think a short warm-up or practice session has in between qualifying and race?
I mean, this is still a fixed setup, but open setup is a little bit different. Because you can get used to like a different setup if you want to. But I mean, it's warm enough as it is right now, so you don't need to warm up, I guess. But I bet you some people will just be driving around a little bit slower just to not sweat a lot. But for the rest, as long as it's fixed setup, doesn't do much because you'll get used to it quite quickly. It's there's not much dynamic stuff going on. There's no like weather. There's no track temperatures or track grip that's changing. So there's not much you can learn in these practice sessions. So yeah, I doubt it does a lot to them.
Well, we are not too far away from the race start, so let's just take one final look at the current standings. And here you have them: Dominik Ladler 92, to Maximilian Dehn's 80, plus of course the qualifying points. And pretty much everybody from P3 to P9 is in this race, run into it with lots of points to make up for. It will surely be very interesting.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm really most interested to see how quickly Maximilian can drive towards front of the grid, which we are getting ready for right now. So expect a turn 1 dive.
The man on pole, that is Dominik Ladler. Alongside him, that is Rowan Den Hood.
So getting ready, they have their hut, which tells them where to be. Looks like some people don't really know how it works, but they should be ready now. It looks like the right lane was a bit behind, but they are off to a clean start now.
Oh, that's
Someone
Maximilian
driving towards
Dehn.
the grass.
Maximilian Dehn immediately taking to the grass in the background, but Dominik Ladler able to keep the lead. There's contact behind between the 14, that's David Baker in one of the Iron Dames cars. And Rowan Den Hood immediately under pressure for P3. That's Ali Zaya going through.
If that was someone going into the wall quite hard, he will feel that in the tires afterwards.
And Maximilian Dehn up to P6. He started somewhere around P12, up to P6, 6 places in the opening section of the race.
That's a very strong start.
And now down the inside of that should be Jonah Mielke. My eyes don't deceive me.
Yep, it is, and as I said, like, it's quite easy to overtake on this part. Everyone going through the gravel there, it will slow you down a little bit, but it does seem they gonna get away from it unscathed, and it looks like Enrico is putting pressure as well on Stan. And upcoming to the quick chicane, so there's not much space to outbrake someone. But Maximilian Dehn already made the move before the chicane, up to P4.
Definitely a good start to the race for him. Up front. Oh, and Rowan Den Hood hit the wall, doing a very clean 360 there, but...
Wait, where did he hit that wall? Did he hit it on the exit?
I think
Yeah, it was
so.
just as the barrier comes out a little bit, he just seemed to catch it.
Yeah, usually an Armco barrier would like deflect you more rather than catch you in the front, so I'm not sure what happened there. It's just a bit of bad luck. And oh, talking about bad luck, David Baker goes into the wall where another Iron Dames car was already parked.
We've seen a crash like this, I think, in round 4, but...
There's a lot of people probably glad that damage is off for today's race already.
Oh boy, that would have been a massacre. I bet you Maximilian Dehn would be up to P3 if that was enabled.
But up front, Alizaya is also closing in on the championship leader, on Dominik Ladler.
And like most of them are in the voice channel in the RENNSPORT Discord as well, so they will be talking to each other. Dominik Ladler is not, but Alizar... Oh, Dominik Ladler is. I am blind. So Alizar, Dominik Ladler, Enrico Browninger, Maximilian Dehn and Tim are in there, so they can communicate, and maybe there will be some trash talking going on there, but I doubt it because they're always very nice to each other.
I'm sure there'll be a little bit, just for fun.
Yeah, it's a great community to be in.
Enrico Browninger again passing his teammate at FDRT. Tim Schroeder in 8th.
And now going towards David Baker. David Baker doing very well on that controller, as I said, in P7.
Just Monuera has really dropped
Wait,
down the
it's
order at the
not.
start, so really not lucky, and I think you just confused OG Stan with David. They do use the same
Yeah.
livery car, so I can't blame you.
Yeah, I think that's going on. Or, well, my live timing wasn't refreshing as I wanted to.
Heat's getting to Remco already. Yeah,
I mean-
Chesky had a lot of problems in turn 1. An accident happened right in front of him, and then he got in contact going through turn 2 as well, so that put him really far back in the field. So he's done well to get back up to 9th right now, and he's another one of those people that quietly sneaks their way through the field, so I'm expecting him to gain a few places as the race goes on.
Meanwhile,
So
Maximilian
guys,
Dehn
what
took
did I tell
second.
you? Yeah, exactly. What did I tell you about Maximilian Dehn? He's already pushing up to the rear. Oh, that's a blocking maneuver by Dominic Latter. Dominic Latter knows he needs this. He knows. How much point difference is there between P1 and P2? Do you know that, Lino?
Well, you get 1 point for the position, and then there should be a 2-point difference in the fixed points. Aliza with a huge send.
Ali is gonna help Maximilian Dehn in the championship standings. That was a beautiful, opportunistic move. Like, on the inside there. Also, very good sportsmanship from Dominic Latter. He could have thrown out the block, but that would have ended up in a crash and probably killed his race and Alizar's race. Right now, under pressure from Rowan Den Hood. Let's see if Rowan Den Hood is going to launch an attack soon, or if he's gonna wait till Dottinger Ho. I bet you it's gonna be Dottinger Ho, because these are very twisty turns with very little outbraking possibilities.
You
Because
forgot
it's
one thing.
What's that?
It's Rowan Den Hood.
Yes.
He really waits
Even
for
a
his
best of
chances.
drivers, it's not like there are back markers to worry about yet. So I doubt he will find a place, because Dominic Latter is also not that bad of a driver that he will give a chance on this area. Even on the straight, he managed to block Maximilian Dehn in a bit, but the only reason Alizar passed him is because in that very quick left-hander, he had to brake to avoid Maximilian Dehn, and Alizar could take it full throttle. Oh, well, almost full throttle, because it's not full throttle in a GT3 car. Trust me on that. But Rowan the Hood is right behind him. And as I said, he's probably gonna wait till Dottinger Ho. And we will see how powerful the draft is gonna be, because this is gonna be the first time they go over Dottinger Ho. Maximilian Dehn already into P1, 1.5 seconds ahead, 1 second before Dominic Lattler. But it's less than half a second Dominic Lattler and Rowan Den Hood. Rowan knows. So there's only the short carousel coming up. Or am I still too soon? No, I'm actually right here. Yeah, the short carousel is coming up here, and it's 2 right-handers onto Dottinger Ho. Oh, a small mistake from Rowan Den Hood. That can cost him the opportunity to get Dominic Lattler. Just a bit of inside curb that will bounce you towards the outside. The curb here is high, and it looks like it put him 1 second behind Dominic Lattler. I doubt that's going to be enough draft to get him up to Dominic Lattler, and if he has to draft to Dominic Lattler will have to draft to Alizar as well. So it will be a stalemate, and Rowan Den Hood has to wait another lap, I think, or he has to drive towards him right in the braking zone and do it into turn 1.
The front four is definitely in a pace of
everyone
his
how
own.
it's done with the... Yeah.
Good job, guys. No, but they're stuck right now, so I will. It's Alizar actually putting an attack on Maximilian Dehn. That's interesting, but Maximilian Dehn is gonna get side draft maybe? No, he's just gonna stick behind. He will probably go pull an
That's
attack.
Tim
Well,
Schroeder.
is that Tim Schroeder?
It's Tim
Why
Schroeder.
Yeah,
did you move the camera? I did not know.
It says Tim Schroeder at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, but I was looking at cars, and then I just saw 2 cars, and I
Rowan
was
Den-
like, wait, we were at Dottinger Ho.
Rowan Den Hood
Rowan?
around the outside.
What did I say? What did I say? He's gonna wait, or he is gonna do an attack into turn 1. So he did an attack in turn 1. But it's gonna cost a lot of points to Dominic Lattler, and I bet you, even though I don't know the exact numbers, this would cost Dominic Lattler the championship if he's gonna stay there.
Could be very tight. I can do some calculations based on it. But yeah, it is. One question I have to you is, are you sober?
Almost.
That's good enough. But yeah, definitely fights up and down the field. Shuri Percival, he's still in 7th. I think that's very respectable in that grid. He only dropped down 1 place, essentially, this lap. Of course, drivers changed around him, but he's holding that Porsche up in 7th.
Yeah, his lap time's not too bad either. It's definitely seems representative of where he is. So it looks like he's settling himself down in position and could well hold that for a while. Rowan de Hood, in a shocking turn of events, the only person to have done a valid lap so far this race.
Well, I'm not sure if that surprises me or not. I think Ron has really learned a lot. If you think back to last season, he struggled a lot to adapt to Nordschleife. I think the championship results reflect that quite well. But over this season he has learned a lot, and I think he's putting that to use now. He is very eager to get a good result here today. He's said that in numerous chats before. And he seems to prove that he is capable of doing so.
Exactly, but right now he will probably get back under pressure from Dominic Ladler if Dominic Ladler can get a hold of his pace again, like get back consistently again, get back into the groove, because just that groove, if you're out of it, which he was, you will lose a lot of time. And that's probably why he lost 3 positions in the, like, a matter of a few minutes. So I hope he can get back into the groove, into the rhythm, because that's very important around here, just the rhythm. Yeah, it's not like any other track where you hit the same term over and over again. You hit it only once every 8 minutes. And so you just have to get into the rhythm of the track. You can't, get out of it, because you will go off track and hit a wall.
One thing we have seen with Dominic Ladler throughout this season and last one as well is that he's always quite conservative with his tyres at the beginning of the race. He does tend to take it easier and then hold his pace a lot better as people around him use their tyres up. So, like we saw last lap, he did an 8:18, which is quite a lot slower than his qualifying pace. So I'm wondering whether he's conserving his tyres for later on and he can start pushing a bit harder.
Oh, definitely possible. He's a smart driver, and it's a long race, 2.4 hours. I saw Rowan, for example, push his tires a lot more. He had oversteer in that AMG. Although the AMG has quite a light rear end, it still will burn up your tires a bit if you do that. Rowan definitely pushing, and Dominic probably a little bit less.
Meanwhile, I put some research into your question to make it more precise. If Dominic Ladler were to stay in this position, he would retain the championship lead. But there's also a catch. Of course, both have to make it to the end. But there's also a point for fastest lap, and I think Maximilian Dehn is the strongest contender for that in that field we have. He's super quick across 1 lap. So that would cut down the lead by 1 more point. And if Dominic Ladler loses 1 more position, so essentially finishes P5, if my calculations are correct, they are equal on points.
So it depends on Tim Schroeder if he can come towards Dominic Ladler, if Maximilian Dehn will get a chance at the championship.
Pretty much so. I think there will be more factors at play, but that will definitely be one of the key points. Dominic Ladler is safe if he finishes in the top 4. Anything outside of that depends on other factors. So yeah, still more than 2 hours to go.
Max Dehn currently going for the stripy sector tactic of 1 purple sector followed by 1 green sector. Then purple, green, purple, green. So it's an interesting tactic.
There are quite a few very short sectors around this track. I know from experience there's probably even one which is only like 9 seconds long from the top of my head. So quite hard to gain time there.
Vandenhood did a bit of a mess in the carousel. So he's now back in the hands of Dominic Ladler, if you want to say so. Only 6/10 now down the hill. If he can keep that up, he might have a shot on the Döttinger Höhe.
And then it's going to be the other way around. Maybe Dominic Ladler is able to keep the car on the concrete part of the short carousel. Because if he can, then he will be close enough for the draft. And I think that will be the second time that we see someone using the draft on Döttinger Höhe.
Odyssean meanwhile got past Xuri for P7, that is. And Cesco Moreno is also closing in on the two of them. And Vandenhood goes very wide and into the wall.
That looked quite weird. Might have been like a controller disconnect or something, or some technical issue, because what turn was that? I don't think that was like a really hard turn either.
I mean, it was the double right and it was basically Pflanzgarten. And it looked to me like he ever slightly clipped the grass. Of course, it's a very tricky corner. You do that jump, you go very wide in certain cars. And what is the speed you have there? About 210-ish?
Well, he had a little bit less afterwards.
That is very true. But clipping the grass and you are gone. So I see that Tim Schroeder now is 1.7 seconds behind him due to that issue. These two also with very hefty battles in the past, if you think back to some collisions in Orchard Road and on the Nordschleife.
Joey Percival's just muscled his way past OG Stan, and Chestu Monero followed him through, so got a bit of a three-way battle going on for 7th place right now. Coming onto the Döttinger Höhe, this could get pretty spicy.
Bit of weaving on the straight here.
Trying to break the draft, which I was talking about, but he is quite close already in P8, Manuera. And I bet you he is going to line up for an attack on Percival. He's around the outside. That's a difficult pass to do, but he's staying way wide to avoid the side draft. But there's going to be a left kink here. He's ahead, it seems. He's going to turn in. Both hit the inside curb on either side. And don't crash for some reason.
This was a lot of curb usage.
Yeah. Normally, if you do that, you would absolutely kill yourself. But this was, I mean, just went alright, and that's best. But there's still turn 1. There's a braking zone here. A little bit of a defensive line from Manuera. Is he going to brake later? No, he is not. The inside line seems to be the best. And then, of course, a direct left-hander because we take the short route through the GP section. And that puts Percival ahead again. So, another lap, another chance. Let's see if he can attack again.
Probably not the way Odyssean envisioned this to go. But for Xuri Percival, pretty much the best outcome he could have hoped for. Back up into P7 with that.
There's a lot of fighting going on behind him though, so he's not clean away yet. He made a bit of a mess of the Dunlop hairpin there.
Dennis Kurzer and Radoslav Pionkiewicz are both hunting down David Baker for P12.
Just amazing. Looking at how David Baker drives, he is quite smooth. And that, with a controller, I mean, for me it would be very difficult. Of course, he's a lot more used to it. But he hits apexes like a normal racing driver. It's great to see.
I know he spent quite a lot of time perfecting his controller setup, his settings, and getting them working just how he wants. And you can really tell by the way he drives, or you can't tell, which I suppose is the point, that he's using a controller. So he's obviously got something dialed in perfectly for him there. Something we haven't really talked about yet, but there is a full day-night cycle in today's race. You can see the drivers are getting their lights on. It's getting a bit darker throughout the kind of more wooded sections of the track. And the lighting levels are definitely starting to go down.
And whilst that's happening, we just saw Tim Schreuder have quite a bit of a moment into one of the quickest turns of this track. But he kept it straight, and although it's getting quite dark, B7, first of all, has not got his headlights on yet. Is that gonna go automatically? I don't know, but it's gonna be difficult if it gets dark and you don't have headlights on.
It's, yeah, a difficult and indeed a black flag.
Oh, he's flashing his lights. Does he have his button bound for headlights, actually? Because we have seen this before, actually by one of the pro drivers. I think it was Maurice Lerner at Spa back in the day, where probably the first race we did with day-night cycle, where he didn't bind his headlights switch, so he just kept flashing his lights because it would avoid him getting a black flag. I've got a feeling the same is happening here.
I think you
Or
just...
no, he has found his button for his headlights, it seems.
We are currently at 1940 in-game time. The obligation to turn on headlights will come a tiny bit later, but they're already having their auxiliary lights on, just to be seen a bit better. Oh, and you're just going a bit too wide there, just going, yeah, just avoiding anything there by getting off the grass.
He had his headlights on, so he did see the wall coming.
Well, one driver who definitely sees some headlights coming his way is Roland Hood, because Tim Schreuder is still hunting around. The gap has grown a tiny bit, but we've seen that countless times. Gaps grow, gaps shrink, but Tim Schreuder in general looks very, very fast, very, very confident. And the car
Tim
sounds good.
Schreuder actually has 3 purple sectors right now, and his last lap was an 8:06, which is the second quickest lap on track right now. So Tim Schreuder is hunting people down.
Gap between Ronan and Dominic Lala also has increased to 3.5 seconds. So these two are definitely building a bit of gap to each other, which is definitely good for Dominic Ladler. It will be interesting how Enrico Buoniga's pace develops over the current or the next laps.
Okay, he had pace in qualifying, but it doesn't seem to translate back into the race. Dominic Ladler, I have a feeling that he's actually slowing down.
Yeah,
Looking at the gap, he is slowed down a lot.
Something go wrong because Rowan de Hood has caught him up a lot in the last couple of turns.
Yeah, and does seem like Tim Schreuder has lost a bit of a connection with Rowan, but Rowan is flying right now up the bottom of Dominic Ladler, and Dominic Ladler right now means that he has Rowan and Tim right up his arse, which means a lot for the championship. Because as you said, that will mean they will be even with Maximilian Dane. And there's the flashing. Hey, I was wondering how long it would take for the flashing to start. I expected it from Tim Schreuder, but Rowan den Hoed is the first one initiating it.
Initiating the Tim Schreuder flash before Tim Schreuder is also an achievement, I guess. But we also got a report from Kimi Harpala, who of course, who unfortunately can't take part in this race anymore due to technical issues. Kind of the theme of the day, really. But Maximilian Dehn also had a crash, and Alizaya is 1 second back from the Porsche. So even the man who looks invincible really isn't here today.
Where did the pace from Alizar come from out of nowhere? Because we know the qualifying pace of Dominic Ladler was a lot quicker than P2, which was Rowan, and Ali was slower than Rowan. And right now in race pace, he is actually up there with Maximilian Dane.
Meanwhile,
Or did
Tim
Maximilian Dane
Schroeder
just make a mistake?
Maximilian did make a mistake, but still, your point is very valid because Ali Zahir is driving away from the cars behind, who in qualifying definitely had a better pace. So while the gap that now came down between the two leading cars is due to Maximilian Dane's mistake, the overall pace of Ali Zahir is way better than what we've seen in qualifying.
And is Rowan actually under pressure right now, which means he cannot attack Dominic Ladler? And there's a Tim Schroeder flash, I can see it. Ah, long time no see.
The gap between Rowan and Dominic Ladler grew quite a lot just before Dottinger-Hur, and now it's back down purely through the tier garden. It shrunk right back down again. Is Dominic Ladler eating a sandwich while he's driving?
Could very well be. Or, as I said, he might be drinking water. Because, you know, it's hot, probably where he lives as well. And Tim Schroeder keeps flashing again. But yeah, it might be that the BMW has a higher top speed than the Mercedes. I'm not sure about this. I have not tested it. I have not actually seen any evidence of it, but it is very possible. Because that means on Dottinger-Hur, if he gets a good exit, Dominic Ladler, he will be able to drive away from Rowan.
What I find very interesting in all of this is how much the pace fluctuates. I think it also goes back, you know, with a slight battle for P7 between Percival and Manera, but I feel like the consistency in general for many people is lacking, which we are usually accustomed to see. Maybe really because of the heat we have here today.
Maybe, yeah, it could be just pure driver conditions are making things a bit more difficult for all these guys driving. Because, yeah, there's usually a lot more consistency, especially among the top guys. I can't remember seeing Max Dean crash for a while. And Dominic Ladler's pace seems to be fairly up and down at the minute. Ali Zahir's last lap was 2 seconds slower than his lap before. Dominic Ladler was 3 seconds slower. Run to Hood actually improving, so he's going quicker.
And you can see that at how close he is behind Dominic Ladler right now. Really close. But this Flugplatz, it's not the place you want to be close. But apparently he has made it. But you're not going to be able to put it alongside here. Not without taking a lot of risk. But it's Rowan, of course. He's going around the outside. Is that going to happen? Yes, it is. That's a beautiful move, actually. And Dominic Ladler doesn't retaliate into the right-hander that comes up to it. That's a surprise to me, because he had a very good line to dive on the inside, but he didn't. But right now, it does mean he is behind getting the draft, doing the Tim Schroeder flash. Really close, but this is no overtaking opportunity here. It's a very quick left-hand apex going to a very slow right-hand apex. So cars naturally go towards the outside of the track, so you can't really put it on the inside of the next turn. And it looks like he right now gets Tim Schroeder behind him as well, also pushing. But I think Rowan has got it right now, but Tim is in the draft of Dominic. Dominic is in the draft of Rowan. If they've got pretty much the same pace, it just becomes like oval racing. If you're behind, you're quicker because you've got the draft.
Dominic seemed to have the pace when he was out front. I don't know whether he made a few mistakes or what, but he's definitely got good pace. Although saying that, Rowan seems to be popping out 808 right now, which is quicker than Ali Zahir ahead. Tim Schroeder, like I said before, he's doing 807s. Dominic still seems to be mainly, I'm sure, conserving his tyres, waiting for later on. There's still 1 hour 55 of this race to go. So there's a long time to go, and if you want to try and do it all on one set of tyres, you need to take care of them a little bit at least.
Oh, Tim is really close right now, and you know, if Tim is going past Dominic Ladler, he will be flashing past.
But we are also driving into the night right now. It's getting dark, and this will require a completely different skill set.
Yeah, there's I wonder how many people have been learning the braking markers in the dark, because that could be quite telling right now. See how much people's pace changes. Tim Schroeder giving Dominic Ladler a little push around that corner.
But he stays behind for now, not like the other green-held liveried car. Meanwhile, it seems like we have further technical issue, this time for the Porsche of Radoslav Pironkiewicz, who has left this race. I'm just saying there has been connection issues. Let's hope that this does not become a trend for the evening, but of course very unfortunate.
Dominic Ladler doesn't seem to lose connection with Rowan, but is also not driving towards his back that much, which does mean he will be under attack from Tim Schroeder. This does mean that Tim Schroeder will lose connection to Rowan if he is stuck behind for too long. Definitely if he's gonna start attacking and they both start losing time. Maybe after that Tim Schroeder can get back a little bit of pace. But right now it seems that Rowan is actually driving away from him too, because I think Dominic Ladler is feeling the pressure right now.
We usually talk a lot about Dominic Ladler really knowing when to pick his fights, and I feel like usually, well, all of the time basically, he knows why and how he should fight somebody. And now with Tim Schroeder behind him, I'm not sure how much he thinks about the championship. I think this being more of a crown jewel event, you don't really think about the championship, you think about the race. If he knows that he can keep Tim Schroeder behind for some time, knows that he can compromise his tires without losing too much time, which he apparently really doesn't, because the connection to Ronda and Hood doesn't open up that much. I think this could be his strat to be on the podium position. Oh, and Tim Schroeder does the mistake.
As I said, if you go track, there will be a wall to meet you there.
Didn't seem to lose too much time with that one. And again, another person really happy that damage is off, probably. So he's carrying on. He's not doing too bad. But what could have been a three-way fight on Dottinger-Hoa has now become a no-way fight.
I mean, it was not going to be a three-way fight. Dominic Ladler was way too far behind Rowan for a draft. But it does mean that Tim does lose connection with Dominic a little bit. And it does mean that Dominic might be able to regain a bit of his space, a bit of his momentum again. And drive towards Rowan. So right now we will see the actual pace from Dominic Ladler, which he has right now. I'm not sure if Dominic Ladler is doing enough right now to certainly take the championship. I've got a feeling he's either saving his tires too much or is not daring too much, because there's so much at stake for him. Because, oh my, I can already see the gap between Dominic Ladler and Tim Schroeder like coming down to 0.7 of a second very quickly.
Meanwhile, Javier Fernandez was closing in on Jonah Mielke, the two Iron Dames liveried cars, but the gap has grown significantly since the Bell of S. But the hottest iron in the race, of course, for NGSRT is Cesco Moreira. He's driving in a solid 7th. But yeah, I think that's not the first time this race that we just can't talk without having to cover some fights all the time, which I think is a good sign if you're half an hour into the race. See, Tim, okay, I spoke too early, but...
I was about to say, they're really close on track. And of course, GP track is a little bit easier to overtake. Oh, and he goes off track. Oh, don't rejoin into his rear. I mean, calculated.
It was close, but I clenched for a second there.
On the real track, you would say inch perfect. I think in our case, it's more pixel perfect.
Yeah, one of the things we have changed with the last patch is how the grass behaves and the gravel. So probably not something they're entirely used to yet, but the grass is a lot bumpier than it used to be.
Which helps against cutting, but also punish you a lot more on this track. So the risk versus reward, the risk has gone up quite a bit.
It's getting properly dark now. We are now at 10 PM. Of course, we have a little bit of a shorter day compared to the real-life 24-hour race. But yeah, the night has broken in. Very different type of racing you would expect now at night, especially on a track like the Nordschleife, which is not very lit around it.
I mean, the track is lit, just not by lights.
But race cars don't need headlights.
Not if you're Takumi Fujiwara driving on a mountain pass.
Well, if you ask some certain people around the Nordschleife, they will tell you stories about the greats of Walter Röhrl and Hans-Joachim Stuck driving in fog without headlights, because they could see more without and opening their doors. But that was way in the past. I think nowadays it would be a bit impossible with all the roll cages and stuff in the cars.
Yeah, that was also back when a lot more people died whilst racing. So, yeah. There are rules for a reason.
Control would take kindly to it.
Tim Schroeder again right on the backboard. We've seen that so many times by now. Does that really mean much in the grand scheme?
Oh yes, it means that he's quicker than Dominic Ladler. And there's the flashing of his lights again.
But if you take into account the time he spends off track, he's kind of the same speed.
Yes, but it does mean that Dominic Ladler has no time to rest and no time to get back into the groove to catch Rowan de Noot.
Meanwhile, the fastest lap of the race has changed hands to Maximilian Dehn, who is now faster than 8:05.4 compared to Alisa's 8:07.1.
Yeah, Ali doesn't seem to have been able to match the pace of his 8:07. His last lap was an 8:10, so was Rowan de Hood. Dominic Ladler and Tim Schroeder both did 8:13s. Enrico Breuninger did an 8:14. But yeah, so I don't know if Alizai is taking it a bit easier because he's got a fairly big gap back to Rowan de Hood. There's no point pushing to try and catch someone like Maximilian Dehn up, so he's just taking it easy, making sure he stays on track. Long way to go, you never know what will happen and all that jazz. Or if he's just not able to match the pace that he found earlier on.
I want to come back just one more time to the qualifying between the drivers, because the 3 points that Dominic Ladler got in qualifying, with them being respected, really help him out in this situation, because even when Tim Schroeder comes past, he still has a very, very small cushion to Maximilian Lehn. He can't afford to drop another position, which would be to Enrico Bräuninger, so he can't have a greater mistake. But it would at least allow him to get Tim Schroeder to pass at some stage.
I mean, with the pace that Dominic has, I don't think he should fight Tim too much, because it will only slow him down. He has a better pace than Enrico, and he's not gonna win the race anyways. So yeah, just get the points, get the championship, I guess.
I wouldn't talk too early, because we've seen very weird things this season happening at the Nordschleife. Meanwhile, a beautiful move here by Jonah Mielke to get past Audi stand for 9. But, I mean,
That was a fantastic move.
one of the last GT3 race, I think it was round 4, we also thought that Alizaya had the race in the back until he rolled over his car, exiting Mutkurve. We know that Maximilian Lehn did a mistake, so how safe is it?
Well, it's safer than if you battle Tim Schroeder, who goes off track half the time.
That is very true. But I also don't feel like Dominik Ladler is defending. I feel like he's just driving his race. Tim Schroeder is just trying to get past and can't find a way. Now in Slipstream, of course, having the upper hand, he does, but I didn't feel like Dominik Ladler was really putting much into defense. He was just driving.
I mean, Dottinger, there's not much you can do about the fence other than trying to side draft and stuff.
I was talking about the previous situations on the Grand Prix circuit. It was always Tim Schroeder overshooting it.
Yeah, I don't feel like Dominic has been particularly trying to defend the moves from Tim Schroeder, that's for sure. I mean, we all know Tim Schroeder is fairly aggressive with his moves, and still a long way of the race to go, but you can see he's not even looking threatening once Tim Schroeder goes past. He just seems to give him some space, make sure that he knows he's not going to try and come back on him, and let Tim Schroeder run his own race. It's just Tim has made a few oopses and gone off track.
Well, it has gotten really dark right now.
It's very dark.
And it might get just a tiny bit more dark in the next few laps. Darkest point of the night will be around 12 to 1 AM.
Well, Tim Schroeder seems to be staying on track this time. He seems to be doing okay. He's opened up a bit of a gap to Dominik Ladler, and he's working his way up the field back towards Rowan de Herd. About 4 seconds behind right now, so he's got a little way to go before he catches up for sure, but he's definitely had the pace. His last lap was up 1:14 when he was behind Dominik Ladler, and before he was doing 1:14? 8:14. He was doing 8:07s before then. Rowan's fastest lap is an 8:08, although he's currently running more in the 8:11, 8:12 area.
Well, with the positions changes going on and all that kind of stuff, why don't we just take a quick look at how the standings would look if the race were to finish like this. We see that Dominik Ladler is leading currently by 4 points. There's still, if you lose one position, 2 more points to lose out on. But it has come down, the gap, and also behind where we've seen gaps of a point or maybe 2. Alizaya taking the lead in the battle for third. Enrico Bräuninger losing that position. Dennis Kurzer moving up a bit, same goes for Rowan den Herd. So every position these drivers collect here on track will still contribute greatly to what they can get in the Greater Championship.
And you know what the difference is between Maximilian Dane and Dominic Latter if it ended like this? One pole position from Maximilian Dane, which he couldn't take because he crashed.
That is very, very true. That one pole position could really determine the outcome of this championship. But also further down, the gaps are still quite small in some regards. Rondon Hood, 1 point behind Dennis Kurzer. That is 1 position on track. The next position, of course, is Alizar here, 12 seconds. But here's to hope Dennis Kurzer loses out to gain that position. But Dennis Kurzer looking very content with 12 at the moment. With still a long way to go, things could change. But here we have the man who's currently looking forward to win his second 2.4-hour race at the Nordschleife. He won last year's edition, part of the RFL. Basically the defending champion in that regard.
Yeah, he kind of came into RENNSPORT as a bit of a Nordschleife specialist, and showed us all he was pretty good at it. He's spread out to some other tracks as well. He's diversified a bit from just racing the Nordschleife races here, but he's pretty quick at all of them. So I don't think, even with his last place start, I don't think anyone was expecting anything different by the end of the race, that's for sure. And he's opening up the gap to Alizar here pretty successfully. Tim Schroeder closing in on Rowan de Hood right now. The gap's come down by about a second since I last said it. Dominic Ladler doesn't seem to be even trying really to fight back. He seems to be just driving his own race, keeping his own pace, and hopefully it'll come back to him a bit towards the end.
The lone Audi in this race, in the hands of Dennis Kurzer. You know, we've seen a bit of an upswing in R8 usage recently, especially at Daytona. But I'm still surprised that Dennis Kurzer currently is pretty much the only one holding up the flag. We know some other R8 drivers used to drive in both RNL and RCL. Namely, of course, the man with the same livery as Dennis Kurzer is using now. Joachim Thunder, who hasn't been with us for quite some time, unfortunately. But Dennis Kurzer is really trying to establish something with the Audi here.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed there's less Audi driving as an Audi owner in-game myself. But a lot more AMG at the minute. Obviously I had the big sound update recently, which does make it sound fantastic. It's very stable and it seems very confidence-inspiring when you're driving it. So a few people trying it out for the time trial challenge this week, which is the AMG at Nordschleife. So maybe thought might as well get double duty for the practice and use it for the race as well.
You know, it's actually quite good that you mention the AMG Nordschleife competition, because for this race and for the time trial AMG on the Nordschleife, we have a little surprise, or not a surprise, but a little reward. So everybody who's competing in this race, no matter if first or second split, or who's entering a lap time on the leaderboard, Nordschleife 24-hour layout AMG GT3, which you can enter for free. The Nordschleife is free until Wednesday. You will get the Purple Beast livery from 2025, which is competing on the Nordschleife right now. Can give you a little sneak peek of what it looks like. There it is. I think it's a very beautiful looking livery.
It is a gorgeous looking car. I think it's been kind of a fan favourite showing up in the Nordschleife this year. Rightly so. It's very pretty.
I mean, purple is the best color. Am I right?
I'm not gonna deny it. I see why you would say that. But yeah, it looks absolutely stunning. Of course, it fits perfectly to the Beast of the Green Hell that both Alizaya and Tim Schroeder are using. I'm sure we will see some of them being used on track. So if you couldn't race here today, make sure to join the leaderboard. You will get it somewhere next week then, after the time frame has eluded. So I think it's definitely worth a shot, and the AMG on the Nordschleife is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm not normally an AMG enjoyer in other sim games, but I've begrudgingly say that driving the AMG is fun.
Yeah, it is very balanced in RENNSPORT. That's because the default setup is very balanced. Of course, it's developed by pros, and it's just great to just be able to pick it up and be quick with it with the default setup, not having to set up yourself. Of course, open setups are a thing these days, so you can always adjust it to your own liking. But going back into the race, it looks like it's pretty much like died down a little bit. Tim Schroeder is maybe driving a bit towards Rowan and Hood. That could always end up in fireworks, helping Dominic Ladler, but Dominic Ladler is definitely not keeping up with Tim Schroeder. But definitely staying way ahead of Enrico Browninger, which looks like it's just a clear-cut like championship for Dominic Ladler, but it's still, he needs to stay out of the walls, stay out of the dirt, stay out of the incidents, which is still possible because only 50 minutes have elapsed out of the 144. And it's still dark, and in the dark, it is quite hard to hit your marks every single lap. But he seems to be doing his job quite alright.
Rowan de Hood getting caught up behind some back markers here, and Tim Schroeder has got right behind him.
Is it all on bump crafting?
No, it was a back marker blocking him. He's just gone off track.
Oh. Well, that definitely helped Tim Schroeder, and it definitely helped us for commentating on this already quite exciting race. But more exciting stuff coming, it looks like.
It really decreased the gap, and it also decreased the gap to Dominic Ladler behind. So if these two start fighting, they might lose more time to the BMW behind. Meanwhile, remember to hydrate in those temperatures. I just got some...
Oh, don't worry, I'm drinking.
I'm sure you do, yeah. I can't say I'm surprised.
But it looks like we're towards the back. OG Stan. Did OG Stan just pass Milka? Because I think Milka was ahead of OG Stan. And it switched around. It looks like Milka's made a mistake, I think.
Could be, yeah.
They were closer on track.
Dennis Kutzer also definitely gained a position. Because he's up into 11th. Because also you lost Moritz N, so the third retirement in this race.
He was the guy who was just kind of blocking Rowan, so I don't know whether that was related. He did just have a big crash.
Is that the Rowan going into the wall?
It is.
Oh, and there was contact. That was a rejoin. Was it Tim Schreuder actually running his car wide, or was that Rowan and Hood rejoining and turning down on him? I don't know. I was not quick enough to see that properly. But there was contact, and out of nowhere, there's a huge gap between Tim Schreuder and Rowan and Hood. By the way, Dominic Ladler, how far is he behind?
He's now 15 seconds behind the two Mercedes.
Did he get caught up with Moritz M, maybe?
Could well be the case.
Someone just did, yes.
That must have been Dominic Ladler, and that's the thing that can happen, because suddenly Enrico is only 15 seconds behind.
And he's been lapping very consistently. Meanwhile, I hope you don't have any form of light sensitivity, because Rowan and I wouldn't... I tried to sound a bit smarter.
Rowan doing the Tim Schreuder. But as the driver ahead, you don't really... Well, you do notice the flashing, but you don't get bothered by it anymore. Definitely not if it's Tim behind you, because you know he's gonna do it. So you kind of expect it, and you're so focused on the turn ahead that you won't care.
I mean, if I had Tim behind me, and I did have him behind me a couple of times, I would be rather worried if he didn't flash me, because then I wouldn't know he's behind me.
But the reason he's behind you is because you probably got ahead because he crashed, and you know he's a few seconds a lap quicker.
Well, in the GT3X I actually qualified ahead, but that's just a small bragging point there for me. But if you don't see the Tim Schreuder flash in your mirror, then it means he's alongside you, which arguably is a bit scarier.
Oh, definitely.
But Ron and are definitely going all in with the flash. I mean, the gap up front between Dane and Alizaya is back to 20 seconds.
It makes it hard for us to see as well what's happening, because the constant flashing, you just cannot see where they are on track.
Oh, but Ron just onto the curbstones, but he was close to it. Through the Audi Sport Bridge.
At least that has like consistent lights and are not flashing. But here's something and there we go. It's a draft, side draft. Does he go towards the right of track? He goes a little bit. It surprised me that they're not side drafting more.
I think Tim Schreuder doesn't want to get alongside through Tiergarten and Frohnlein. I think he's trying to do what Ron and Hood did with Dominic Ladler and make the move into turn 1 on the Grand Prix circuit.
Or he's just staying behind because Enrico is quite far behind as well. Because that gap has went up to 20 seconds from 15, so he is safe for the championship still.
Maximilian Dane just disappeared from the timing screens.
Yes. What has he done? Oh, I am getting messages from him.
So Alizar is the new leading car, but...
Is Moritz M still driving on track by any chance? Because he said he was taken out by him.
No, Moritz M is off the track for quite some time. We will figure that out. But
it's just a shame that those people exist, just...
Tim Schreuder just taking back the position here from Rondon Hood. But even then, it is a bit of a weird situation overall.
Oh, and Maximilian Dane's PC died. That's what happened, so that means pretty much the championship went to Dominic Ladler, which is a shame. Well, not a shame for him, but like a shame that the battle has stopped existing, you know? Would have loved to see it happen on track, but technical issues do happen.
Tim Schroeder again going wide at Vedol meanwhile. But yeah, I mean, it is an odd day, isn't it? For not only our race, but seemingly in general a bit of a green hell curse for this specific day.
We seem to have once again predicted technical problems with a 24-hour race.
That never happens.
After our legendary Road Atlanta, where somebody nearly got disqualified for not being able to turn their lights on in a hypercar, and then that happening the next day.
Oh, we had the 200-mile Road Atlanta event first, right? And then it happened in... Oh, Tim Schroeder going for it on the inside of Flugplatz. There's contact. Rondon Hood is round across the curbstones.
Is that a place to do an overtake?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's sketchy. I mean, maybe if you follow the rule book, he might have had the overlap, but that's a nearly full throttle turn. Yeah, normally you just back out of that.
And it really isn't the first time that these two have come together.
No, it's very true. They're both fairly aggressive drivers, shall we say. So they have had the odd coming together at times on track, and they're roughly the same pace.
Yeah, if you find each other on track a lot, you will probably clash a lot as well. And if you're both a bit more aggressive, it will mean that you will not like each other that much. But it's a shame to see, but let's see what will happen after this. Dominic Lattler, of course, called back up to Rowan after this. Why did Dominic lose so much time to Rowan in the first place?
It was after
I think it was.
Was it purely on pace?
No, it was the back marker getting in the way.
Ah. But for now, for Dominic, it will be a matter of finishing this race. Doesn't really have pressure from behind for the championship. And it doesn't look like he will win either. Because he's half a minute behind, which is far too much.
Don't jinx it, man.
Oh, I won't. I mean, Alizar is like 20 seconds ahead of Tim and Rowan. Tim and Rowan can take each other out. That's still possible. Because, you know, they've got quite a bit of the same pace. They're close together on track. But Alizar is checked out. No matter what happens. If he doesn't make a mistake, that is, of course. Because it's still a difficult track. But he is just being very clean ahead. He has been following Maximilian Dane. But yeah, he didn't make a single mistake either. At least we didn't spot it. So I expect him to just stay out ahead. He doesn't have any pressure from behind. He doesn't need to attack anyone in front. So I don't see him making a mistake anytime soon.
Let's take a look at some other drivers, except for the top 5. Belfort P6 is still on, 2.5 seconds, bit flexing each way between Shuri Percival and Cesco Munuera. These two have been in this position range for a long time, so they look pretty decent in there, pretty comfortable, consistent. Now the two highest placed Porsche, of course. But Cesco Munuera holding up the flag for NGSRT. And behind them, it's also far from done because OG Stan and Jonah Milka are also just separated by 2 seconds for P8.
Yeah, all of those gaps seem to have kind of fluctuated a little bit throughout the race. I know OG Stan just dropped off a little bit from Chess Human Era, but they were having a good fight earlier on.
Well, we of course don't have driver swaps in this scenario. The drivers doing all 2.4 hours, 140 minutes on their own. That doesn't exclude us in the booth here, because after a fantastic stint in the commentary booth, Remco Major is going to take a little break.
Yeah, it has been an enjoying race. A lot of stuff happened already, but it looks like the championship has been decided. Of course, a lot can happen, but I doubt it will be enough for Dominic Lather to lose his championship. So, well, for me, it's bedtime anyway, so I'll see you guys maybe in another stream in the future.
Certainly so. So your final pick for this race, Alizaya?
Oh, definitely. Easily.
We shall find out. So, thank you for being with us here. And
Thank you for having me.
See you later, Remco.
Goodbye.
Leaving with the ultimate commentator's curse of Alizah here will easily win.
Well, that's anticlimactic, isn't it?
OG Stan got right up behind Zuri Percival right now. The gap between them has closed up really a lot, but Johan Milka seems to have dropped right off, so I'm assuming he had a bit of a visiting the grass moment.
Jonah Milka, we've seen him having a spin, exiting back, but Zuri Percival, he was in front of Cesco Monuera. He lost 8 seconds somewhere to now have OG Stan right behind him, so I wonder where this comes from. Haven't seen it. But yeah, we are getting closer to the halfway point of this race. What do you think of the first stint, essentially?
It's been pretty exciting stuff. There's been a lot of action going on track right now. A lot more swapping around. I think you took a bit of flack, I think, from people for turning damage off for this race, but I think it was definitely the right move given what's happened so far. I think damage being on, we would have a lot less people still running the race right now. I think that's my main takeaway from it. It's been fairly action-packed. There's been a lot of overtaking. Excuse me. And a lot of battling on track, which is always fun to watch.
Yeah, it definitely would have greatly changed how this race would have developed. Lots of people, I think, I see it a bit differently than Remco. Alize is looking very, very dominant, of course. But I still see other people in the hunt being able to take the championship, not the championship, but taking the race win. We've seen mistakes previously from Alizaya. We've seen...
Yeah, for sure.
Stuff you could never have... I mean, how did the first RNL season start? It started with Adrian Lunio running out of fuel. We had Kimi Halpla rolling over in the carousel. And we had also Alizaya taking a spin in a different dimension than you would usually expect this season. So there's really so much, and it's only 15 seconds between the two AMGs up front. And we haven't seen Tim Schroeder's true pace just yet.
No, Tim Schroeder, like I said earlier on, he has run an 8:07.3 in this race so far, which is 0.2 slower than Ali Zahir's fastest lap, but he seems to have been a lot more consistent with it. everyone's pace has fluctuated a little bit in the dark. Or some people not quite so used to driving the Nordschleife in the dark as others. So there's been a lot of battling, obviously, which has affected things, but paces have changed a bit. And we'll probably see them change again once we get into the light. It is nearly 4 o'clock in the morning in game right now. So a couple of hours left before it starts to lighten up.
Dennis Kurzer, meanwhile, up into 9th in front of OG Sen. So still a lot of position change. For Dennis Kurzer, this would basically save his place in the championship. So he's definitely racing for some position. Dennis Kurzer, I'm really happy to see how he developed in recent times. We talked about it a lot in RCL. He's just banking good finishes. And in this grid, of course he's running 9th at the moment with 4 DNFs on record. But on the other hand, with the rankings these drivers have in this race, I think that's a huge accomplishment. To still run, to still be very comfortably on the lead lap as well.
Yeah, and he's been doing some battling this race, which is not normally something we see a lot of from Dennis Kurzer. He tends to just sneak quietly through the field, whereas this time he's really had to fight on track for it, so it's been good seeing him flexing some of his racecraft muscles.
Seems to be just getting very comfortable with the car as well and being in the position he is in now. I wonder, in our community, I think we have a very nice community on the Discord, so if you want to join that, feel free to just click on that little Discord button below the stream and join us there. But if you want tips for the Porsche, you're going to ask Maximilian Dehn or Dominik Lala. If you want tips for the BMW, you're going to ask, again, Dominik Lala or Kimi Hapler. If you wanted tips for the AMG, you have lots of good options. You have Alizai, you have Tim Schroeder to help you out. But if you want to get better with the Audi, who are you going to ask? I mean, there are not that many people on the top level really using the Audi, even though it has shown that it is a very valiant choice.
Yeah, that's not. I've not really thought about it, but you're entirely right. There's, especially now with setups being a thing. Ooh, oh, geez, Stan getting a little bit sideways there, but managing to hold on to it. But yeah, with setups being going to start coming into, I think, official events at some point, then who to ask for setup tips and like a pool. It's always good to have a pool of drivers using the same car because they can kind of share information, whereas he's going to be a bit out on his own there, which is unfortunate. But maybe he's a setup genius, I don't know.
Well, we are 10 seconds away from reaching halfway point in this race. So we still have quite some time left to go. I think this is now the first time the race is really settled into a rhythm, where it's not about direct position changes. We still have the P6 fight, which is also fairly close between the Porsches, but everybody can just settle in, drive their rhythm now, especially at night. You can lock into it. But yeah, still 72 minutes left to go is kind of the downside of it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very true. The gap between Tim Schroeder and Ali Zahir is closing. I'm fairly sure it was about 15 seconds before, maybe 16 seconds, whereas it's now 13 and a half. So Tim Schroeder getting in his rhythm and closing that gap up.
And he has all the time he needs to do so. He doesn't have to over-push the car. Gap to Ronin Hood is 26 seconds, but Dominik Lala is closing to Ronin Hood, I feel like. 6.5 seconds now.
Yeah, he does seem to be closing the gap up a little bit. I don't know whether it's just he's better at this sector of the track than anywhere else. I'll try and keep you up to date with lap times once they've crossed the line. to see who's been doing the faster laps recently. But yeah, it certainly seems like Dominic Ladler and Tim Schroeder are making moves. Albeit slow moves.
Definitely Dominic Ladler closing in 5.7 seconds now, so a couple of tenths more he gained towards Rondon Hood. I think a podium finish for him would be nice to close out this season. We've talked about it so many times this stream, but it has been so chaotic for somebody who is usually so extremely consistent. He had some very good races, especially at the start of this season with the GT3s, but then the very odd mistake exiting München with the BMW GT4, then the collision he had in the GT3 car. Really atypical on one hand, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a very strange season for Dominic Ladler after what we've seen from him for a couple of years now, really, with the seasons through RNL and the RCL, where he seems to have been fairly dominant purely on his, not purely, he's obviously got good race pace, but I think his main strength has been his consistency. And then I think he's shown that he might be human after all this season.
Guess that's what they mean by showing the human side here and there.
But yeah, we have passed the halfway point now, so everyone on track is going to get bonus points for that.
That is a very true point. Of course, this will now help Dominic Ladler even more in the championship with his main rival not getting that point, but I don't think it matters too much to him in the grand scheme of things.
No, that's very true. So, looking at lap times, the last lap round, Ali Zahir did an 8:10.7. Tim Schroeder did an 8:7.7. Rowan de Hood did an 8:18 dead. Dominic Ladler did an 8:14.3. So you can really see the gaps closing up there between Zahir, Schroeder, and de Hood and Ladler. Maybe a bit because of the dark pace. I can't think what else, other major factors would be in there.
Yeah, I think that's a very big point. Being able to drive in the dark, you have to adjust a lot. Now, Xue Percival in the slipstream of Cesco Monuero, this for 6th place. Coming out of the slipstream, I think it will be more of a slam dunk overtake here. But yeah, tires is a big factor, being brought up by Radoslav Jonkovic in chat. Dominic Ladler, you said it very early in the stream, usually going for a tire saving strategy. And maybe he's doing that all the time at the moment as well, making it work like it does.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, his pace has dropped off a little bit in the dark, but maybe not quite as much as someone like Rowan de Hood, whose last lap was 10 seconds off his fastest lap. So maybe it is a tyre saving thing. Sorry, Percival there, just overshooting turn 1 by the look of it.
Just going there looking for an option to get by, couldn't quite take it. Meanwhile, just to give you an update on the second split. This one is led by Valentino Alderizio, Luciano Icaso and Piotr Zadalbe. So the same order they had in qualifying, with 7 cars still running there, which is, for a second split, very respectable.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, the bottom split does tend to have not a very great attrition rate. So it's good to see 7 people carrying on there.
Looking back at the gap up front, Enrico Boininger having a very lonely race yet again. Dominic Ladler, 5.5 seconds to Rwandan Hood, so again a bit closer. I don't think he's pushing the car at all. I think he's just taking it easy. And he's getting closer eventually.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to keep smooth, trying to keep reasonable pace and seeing where it takes him, which right now is slowly towards Rowan de Hood, which is a fair strategy. It's 5:30 in game, and I think it's starting to get a little bit lighter.
It is. Sun is going up slowly. Best lap on the second split, by the way, is an 8:14.4 by Ikazu, which is only 7 seconds off what we see as best laps currently on our split here. Just as a small interesting side fact.
Can you see what his qualifying lap was and where that would have put him in split one, just out of curiosity?
Can be on that. Would have been an 8:13.5. In top split, that would have actually, if I see that correctly, put him on the front row, because Rwandan Hood only managed an 8:14.4. But top split was very odd in terms of qualifying.
It was, yes.
As we see the sunrise on board with Dominic Ladler, it's just take in the view going down through the green hell.
It's another slight change in conditions you've got to take into account when you're driving. Just the lighting, maybe changing your braking points a little bit more. Things starting to pop up in your view that you weren't noticing before in the dark, and it can sometimes catch you a little bit unawares. But Dominic Ladler currently 3.4 seconds behind Rowan de Hood. You can see him there ahead.
Slowly getting bigger in the view. Let's actually go on board with Rwandan Hood and just enjoy the noise of the AMG. And Rwandan Hood, one of the first drivers to turn off the lights.
Maybe a bit premature. The road isn't that clear. But managing to keep the gap he had to Dominic Ladler right now. So that's really good for him, picking up his pace a little bit more as it starts to get lighter. Starting to react a bit to Dominic Ladler getting closer. This time round, Ali Zahir did an 808.5, Tim Schroeder did 09 flat, Rowan de Hood did a 14.8, and Dominic Ladler did a 12.7, so it was a good lap from Ladler. Tim Schroeder losing a bit of ground to Ali Zahir this time around.
When you watch 24-hour races and their the live streams, you will often hear that actually the morning sun is one of the most tricky conditions to drive in, because you usually have a much lower sun than in the afternoon. And I think when we stay on board with Dominic Ladler here for a bit, you will see why, because we're still on rising sun, and it does, especially in this situation right now, the sun is very bright and it is very low.
It casts very, very long shadows. which some people especially don't do it in these kind of events, but in general, don't use shadows as braking points. Times of day can change, even in sim races.
Yeah, generally, you shouldn't do that.
Well, the sunrise looking pretty gorgeous, I've got to admit. It was nice seeing the carousel in the distance during the night. The actual carousel, the big wheel, the Ferris wheel, I should say, in the distance during the night races, the night's portion of the race. Oh, my brain is dying. Halfway through, that's the end of my brain.
Maybe it's also frying some circuits. Odistan having a very messy run through the carousel. He's lost a lot of time in recent laps. Not quite sure why that is. Doesn't seem like he did a pit stop.
Did look like he was going to try and jump the barrier there.
The lap record for this race, as we lost Shuri Percival from the race.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
That is very unfortunate. Another name off the list. But a very, very strong showing here today from him. It has to be said.
Yeah. And thank you for taking part. If it was an intentional leave, I'm sorry if it was not an intentional leave.
Tennis Scott's up to 8th with that. No, I lost my point, but yeah, the lap record for this event, 18 laps, set by Maximilian Dehn in autumn last year. And we are currently on lap 11 with Ali Zaher. We have about an hour to go. So, could be a new lap record. 19 laps is possible, depending on the pace of Ali Zaher.
Yeah. It might all depend when he crosses the line, or when he gets to the line, should I say. If he can sneak out an extra lap. But maybe be able to talk about that. Well, we'll see the possibility of it growing or shrinking as the race goes on. Dominic Ladler now 3 seconds behind Rowan de Hood, so he's just got the gap a little bit closer. And then Rowan there, just as I said it, I cursed him. He had a little touch with the wall, nothing major, still carrying on along his way, but it has lost him about a second. Dominic Ladler now 2.1 behind.
You know, we could do a little competition or a little contest. Whether we will set a new distance record today or not, or if we will tie the last one.
I think Dominic Ladler has had a little bit of a problem because the gap's opened up to 4.5 seconds now.
Yeah, overall still, I think Dominic Ladler with the better pace.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you want to bet on whether we set a new distance record here today, so we surpass 18 laps, can type in exclamation mark yes or exclamation mark no for the next 30 minutes. Jonas Mielke is 1.7 seconds back from Dennis Kurzer. It's up into 7th. David Baker also still hanging in this race in 11th. Very respect. I believe those palms are very sweaty on the controller.
Yeah, I can't imagine holding a controller for this length of time. It's an impressive feat of endurance in itself. Oh, gee, Stan and David Baker, the only two drivers not to have set a valid lap so far. Everyone else has managed to do at least one.
You know, one small thing that we can take as a good note, I guess, is that every manufacturer is still in this race.
That's very true. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the top 5 in the top 5 manufacturers in the top 5 situation, but we do have all 5 represented in the top split, so that's a good thing.
Well, still they are all in the top 7, so I guess that's still
Yeah.
a very impressive stat.
That's very true.
John America now properly on the back of Dennis Kurzer. Mirk's somebody we haven't seen him too often, but every time he was there, he was a very solid driver, and he just proves that here today again. Running good in the mid-pack every time. And still putting pressure on Dennis Kurzer, and I think he had the better one out of Bergwerk. Side by side. Up through Kesselchen. There's a bit of contact. And that is Jonamika sliding the wall. I mean, that's the thing where, of course, we are lucky to not have damage here today.
Yeah, for sure.
The problem with those things through Kesselchen is you have left-handers and right-handers. It's not a straight. It's not a straight at all.
Yeah.
And you also have the bumps. The car is getting very, very, very loose. Oh, and Dennis Kurzer into the wall. Now himself. Oh, and he's stuck. No, not quite. He managed to get out of it. I thought we were gonna see a repeat of Rondon Hood's excursion from the last GT3 race around here. First real mistake we've seen from Dennis Kurzer, I think, though.
Yeah, it's a fairly rare one, that kind of mistake. It's unfortunate for him. It's definitely taking him out of that fight for a little bit at least. Probably warmed his tyres up a fair amount. Tim Schroeder on the last lap, I think, must have had a bit of an oops moment, because his last lap was an 8:18, which is very off his usual pace. So I think he might have been pushing a little bit too hard trying to catch up to Ali Zahir there.
Well, of course.
Dominic Ladler back on the hunt for Rowan de Hood, lapping up about a second quicker.
Yeah, if he keeps that pace, he will be very well in contention when he needs to. Can focus everything on that P3 now. Of course, the 2.4-hour Nordschleife runs now simultaneously to the 24-hour Nordschleife. But, I mean, I think everybody who just has a slight interest in motorsports noticed that there are 3 24-hour races this month. Next week, there will be a Spa 24-hour, and we have a Spa 2.4-hour to accompany it. It won't be live streamed because we are still quite a small team, and we can't bring you every single 2.4-hour race. But you will still be able to take part next Sunday at 6 PM, so a bit earlier. You will be able to join pretty much the exact same format as you've seen here today, just on Spa. And I mean, Spa-Francorchamps, very, very different track to the Green Hell. I wouldn't necessarily say easier or harder, it is just difficult in a different way for this amount of distance. But of course the focus more on the racing than on the driving.
Yeah, for sure. I like Spa. I am not fast at Spa. But I do like driving at Spa, as I think most sim racers do in one way, shape or another. It's so kind of ubiquitous with sim racing and GT3s. You see it practically everywhere, and I think most sim racers could probably drive around Spa blindfolded. But some of them look like they're trying. But yeah, it's another one of the great 24-hour races. I'm looking forward to watching the race. Might be able to sneak a go at racing for once. Who knows? And I'd be willing to bet we see a couple of purple beasts turning up to that one.
Yeah, and I mean, not only does it look good and will bring some variety, we talked about it earlier, you can still win it by entering the leaderboard competition. But of course, if we're gonna race on Sunday, we might turn up in some interesting colors as well. Who knows? You will notice us for sure. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure if I will race. Purely
I don't
because of
know.
some
I'll
time
see.
reason. I'm very interested to drive, but I have to pick up some stuff on the day. So who knows? Maybe. I do know from last year, though, it was a very, very interesting race. Of course, we had Moritz Löhner and Yuri Kastop in there.
Yes. On Rowan de Hood just making a bit of a mistake. You can't quite see it on your screen, but he got two wheels on the grass, and the gap really closing up between him and Dominic Ladler.
Yeah, the gap is going down quickly. We're also now we're close to broad daylight. We are now at 8:30 in game time. Oh, and Dominic Ladler going to right now at 8. Didn't lose too much time though. But yeah, now it's not against the track anymore. I think everybody is very accompanied to driving in the daytime, but concentration levels, big topic.
Maybe.
Oh, and Vandenhood loses it going through Wippermann. That's Dominic Ladler through. And where maybe the heat has got to him, but who knows?
Maybe he had a couple of mistakes a couple of corners ago, and I wonder if it just unsettled his car and unsettled his nerves a little bit, especially in the heat. Those things always seem to get a bit magnified, but that's put him 7 seconds behind Dominic Ladler on track now. He did a very stylish 150 to turn around, though. I've got a 180. Sorry, I've got to give him that.
We are getting close to the 100-minute mark. I don't know about you, but for me as a sim racer, every time you pass those certain checkpoints, even though they are essentially worthless, it's a bit of a psychological boost because you know, okay, I just have this much to go, I just have this much to go at some point. And you just try to find something that gives you that little motivation boost.
Yeah, for sure. When you're doing an endurance race, you need to kind of like set your own goals, and that's not just goals as in relation to your position on track, but also things to keep your concentration higher, give you something to focus on. And yeah, having like time goals is always a good one. A couple more laps and I've done this, and you feel kind of a little bit good about yourself.
And it really isn't easy here today with the temperatures that pretty much everybody is racing in. I mean, most of the drivers we have here are from Europe, or the European region, except for, I think, David Baker.
Yeah.
And I think across Europe it is very, very warm here today. Some can cope with heat better than others, of course. It's not a universal thing, but it does get to you, usually.
Shock horror, I do not cope with heat very well. I know I'm British, and it's surprising everybody. Current lap time, giving you a lap time rundown. Ali Zahir did an 08.8. Tim Shoy did an 09.3. Dominic Ladler did an 08.7. So Ladler currently the fastest driver on track in the top 3. He is 21 seconds behind Tim Schroeder, 44 minutes to go. But he seems to be comfortably picking up the pace. So we'll see what happens. You never can tell. But we wouldn't have expected Rowan de Hood to spin out, and he did. So who knows what's going to happen in the next 43 minutes.
Very true. 100 minutes. We are on lap 13. Doing some math, could be tight. So all depends on the pace from the AMGs up front.
Yeah, Ali Zahir only running 1.5 seconds slower than his fastest lap right now. So obviously got a bit of confidence from the daylight back again. And it's an impressively small margin compared to considering he's been racing for 100 minutes. Good concentration levels from Ali. He's just a robot rocking those laps one in after another.
Usually drives like a clockwork, so I'm not too surprised in that regard. But yeah, of course, 44 minutes left to complete 5 laps or 6 laps for a new record. If you think that there will be a new record, a new distance record, type in !yes and or exclamation mark bet, and then yes with the amount you want to bet on, or exclamation mark bet no. For my part, I think it could be a new distance record. Cars have gotten a bit faster since last year. And the drivers have gotten a lot more experienced. The settings otherwise are pretty much the same. We drive without damage, without tires to worry about, basically. Because these tires are a very hard compound, relatively. So they do last a significant distance.
Yeah, as long as the drivers at least kind of like token look after them, they should be okay for the distance. But it is a distance that you generally don't drive, so how the tyres behave at those kind of wear levels is something that's going to be a bit new to them. But these guys are pretty good. I'm sure they can adapt.
Meanwhile, few changes on the, or very few changes on the second split. Still the podium. Aldo is here, Ikazu and Zadive. So they are hanging in there.
Do you know what their gaps are like?
Actually, the battle for the lead is still on. It's 5 seconds between the Swiss and the Argentine. And there just was a pass for P4 as well. Zadive nearly 6 minutes back. I don't think that they will be really close fighting for the lead in this race, but still a podium finish for Piotr Zadive would be a very welcome addition, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely been deserving something like that. So it'd be great to see him standing on the virtual podium after a season of consistency, really, and good results. Just slowly picking up his pace, getting better. Seems to be doing it maybe the slow way, but the right way.
Yeah, between Ali's and Tim Schroeder's also staying very, very consistent throughout. Nothing really changing into any direction. Drivers very spread out across the track, but actually what I'm very positively surprised about is 9 cars still on the lead lap. And
Yeah,
Javier Fernandez, I think, will also be still on the lead lap. So 10 cars still on the lead lap.
yes, he's just coming up to finish on the start-finish straight right now. So absolutely no reflection on David Baker not being on the lead lap right now. It's still pretty good. He had a pretty awful last lap by the look of things, but he's sticking in there, and like we've said, he's a guy with a controller lasting 144 minutes. My hands will be cramping around about now.
Having driven, I think it was 7.5 hour race in my life on controller, I can tell you, yeah, the main problem for me was actually the controller starting to slip out of the hand.
Yeah.
So like holding onto it was very tricky at some point. But yeah, very, very impressive indeed.
And he is someone that's fairly active on our Discord, and he asks a lot of questions. You know, he's always asking for tips. He's always seems fairly willing to throw them out there as well to help other controller players out. And he's been steadily getting quicker. He does a lot of daily racing with us, and he's not shy about his opinions, but you can see his kind of like pace progression over the last few months, for sure, and it's great to see him always taking part.
Yeah, and one great thing about this race as well, currently, to what I can see, is that nobody has any penalties. And with the first penalty threshold, 40 incident points for a 15-second time penalty, that is very respectable to keep it on track for this long. On one hand, you would say, okay, you would expect it, but on the other hand, try driving this for yourself and then judge. It really isn't that easy. To keep it clean for so long, and especially with all the fighting we have seen. We have so many fierce fights. But the implications of this race, of course, will be not only towards this race currently led by Alizar here, but also towards the championship, which we might just take a look at once again. Because things have changed a lot since the last time we did it. So
That's very true.
Dominik Ladler still winning the championship, but it's not Maximilian Dehn anymore who is sitting in P2. It will be Ali Zahir, then Enrico Boeniger retaining his third position, Tim Schroeder, Maximilian Dehn, and Dennis Kurzer jumping up to 6th. So yeah, lots of stuff changing. We still have a long way to go. So this is far from what the final result could be.
One thing worth mentioning about Dominik Ladler, he just set his fastest lap of the race. He did 8:10, which not the fastest lap of the race, but it is his fastest lap of the race. over an hour in, which is pretty amazing. So he's did the last lap about 2 seconds faster than Tim Schroeder, and about the same speed as Ali Zahir. Well, about a second faster than Ali Zahir, actually. Ali Zahir just making a mistake and spinning a little bit, but back on track. Still got 18 seconds ahead of Tim Schroeder.
Yeah, the gap is still quite large, but 34 minutes left to go. We are either between 4 or 5 laps. Could be a lot to play for still if Tim Schroeder does a mistake. We've seen people doing mistakes which you wouldn't expect them to. It's looking good for this man though, who is going across the curb. Well, that's how quickly you can make a mistake.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of frustration setting in. Just need to take a second, gather his thoughts. He's still got a big gap. There's no need to throw it away right now, Ali.
You have to keep the concentration going. We can tell you it's not easy being in this broadcast for so long.
I wonder if the tires are having any kind of effect at this point, though. They've been on these tires for a long, long time, and they should be okay. But I can't see his tire information from my broadcasting screen, unfortunately, so I can't say for sure. Well, I can just ponder the question.
It is a very good question. I still think what you said earlier in the stream, Dominic Ladler, conservative with the tires, seems to really pay off because he's still lapping only 2 seconds off his qualifying lap times. Tim Schroeder has dropped quite a bit in pace. Ali Zahir is still holding strong to his lap times, even though he just did that pretty big mistake. With damage that could have been close to race ending, or at least ended his pace. Dominic Ladler is just
for sure.
holding on to it. He's keeping it easy with the car. And Ron and Hurt has dropped significantly in the last few laps. 3 seconds slower than Dominic Ladler the last time they went around.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have recovered so well after his little mistake. Sent him into the barrier. He never seems to have got his pace back after that.
We're getting close to the last, you could say, stint of the race. I mean, it is pretty much one long stint, but I think some drivers will start a bit of a final push. But before we do that, it's maybe worth mentioning, tomorrow we have a very, very different event to this one, which will also be live streamed on this channel. We will go to Orchard Road with some TCR cars for 2 sprint races. Last time we did that, it was very chaotic, but had some very good racing as well. So we'll be curious what Orchard Road can provide to us. And to give you a little taste of what's to come, we of course have a little trailer. Well, 30 minutes left to go. 3 AMDs in the top 4. What do you think, car or driver?
I mean, Tim Schroeder has always been, well, Tim Schroeder and Ali Zahir have always been fast. I don't think I'm particularly surprised to see either of those in the top 3. They just happen to have always been AMG drivers. So I think it's driver.
I would also go with it. I mean, who knows how this race would have looked if we didn't lose Maximilian Dehn to some technical issues.
That's very true.
It is really scary in a way how much we connect to the real races in parts where you shouldn't as a sim racing game. Or in a sim race. I'm not quite sure what it's down to, but whatever it is. Next up in Spa.
Yeah.
We should be surprised what comes next.
Maybe. We'll see what happens in the actual Spa 24 hour. I mean, if it floods, we should be okay because we haven't got rain yet. So that might work, unless something really breaks.
Right, back to racing action we go. We are on lap 15.
Now, this has been an interesting lap because Ali Zahir obviously had those mistakes and that's put him down to an 820 for his last lap. Tim Schroeder, out of absolute nowhere, has just done an 807.7. Maybe spurred on a bit by the gap between him and Zahir shrinking. Dominic Ladler doing an 809.2. Road de Hood doing an 810.8. So all the top 4 drivers are in the 810s or below right now. As long as you discount Ali Zahir's slight oops lap.
Yeah, the pace is really consistent. I mean, Ronan Hood is also actually doing an 810, 810.8.
Yeah.
So he's not per se off the pace. I don't think he will be able to increase it to the level of the cars in front. But it was really that early morning portion that put him this far down into the disadvantaged position.
But yeah, Tim Schroeder's lap is pretty impressive because that's only 4/10 less than his fastest lap of the race so far. He's been coming from the back, I think, most of the way through the race, hasn't he? So he's had some clean air earlier on in the race, and that's why he was doing an 807. But to do one now, and especially after his last couple of laps have been a bit off pace, he's really kind of pulled things together. He's now 10 seconds behind Ali Zahir. That's got to give him some hope. We're on lap 15, 27 minutes left to go.
You know, of course, after this race, RNL will go on. We will have another season of RNL, which more details will follow in the future.
What? Shocking.
Very shocking, I know. But it will be interesting to see that Purple Beast livery mixed in there as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll have some of the Green Beast ones and the Purple Beast ones. I think it'll serve the AMG well.
And from the regulars we see here at the Nordschleife, the AMG in general seems to be a very popular choice alongside the Porsche and BMW. Even though the BMW is more like a Dominic Ladler kind of car, But the AMG has developed a bit into that all-round car. I think that's a spot the BMW previously filled, but since we had the new tires, the 1.12 update, the Mercedes really has gotten its place.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned before on the cast about how it always seems to be a favourite with the kind of like gentleman driver teams. It seems to be predictable and confidence inspiring in real life. I know it's still doing fairly well in the British GT Championship, I believe, in the Pro-Am categories. So it's kind of cool to see that it seems fairly similar in game as well. It does seem stable and inspires you to push it a little bit harder. And I think it's nice to see those kind of parallels between a game, not just on pure numbers, like the stats are the same on the car as in the real car, but also how it drives. Its kind of character seems to follow through.
Yeah, and I mean, they're currently doing, or being 5th and 7th, with the Purple Beast being in that 7th spot in the re-race. So they are not doing too bad there as well. The lone BMW being in P2, our BMW is in P3. Who knows, Dominic Latta may be soon a BMW Works driver in the sim racing realm.
Tim Schroeder now going to the single digits gap to Ali Zahir now, just over 9 seconds. So you can see he's decided it's still game on and he's going to go for it.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see the lap times of this lap 15. Because it seems Tim Schroeder has found pace. It seems like he really decided now it's go time. 23 minutes left to go.
It's not like him and Dominic Ladler have both closed up to Ali Zahir. The gap between Schroeder and Ladler has increased a little bit. So it's definitely Schroeder getting quicker that is closing this gap up.
I think for both of them, Ali Zahir and Tim Schroeder, they've been with us for quite some time, but it would be the biggest win they had in RENNSPORTs so far.
Yep, for sure.
The first 2.4 hour race being won by Moritz Löhner, the second one by Maximilian Dehn.
If only we had a golden beast livery for the winner. Maybe for next year.
Who knows? Maybe we can pitch the idea of it. And just to clarify, the 2.4 hour race is 144 minutes, so exactly 1/10 of a distance. But it could look like it will be a new lap distance record. We have 21:45 left on the clock. Ali Zahir is right now on the Döttinger Höhe. 8 minutes 10 a lap. Unless something big happens.
Yeah, he seems fairly on target for breaking the record here. Ali Zahir crossing the line in an 8:11. So a little bit down from his previous lap pace. Tim Schroeder less than 8 seconds back from him now. You can just see Ali Zahir at the end of the straight. That's going to be spurring him on. He crosses the line. Wow, in an 8:06.9. That is the fastest lap of the race, at least from those remaining in the race.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's only a single lap throughout the whole race day here today that was faster, and that was one lap done by Maximilian Dehn in the race. I think that was an 8:05.
I think you might be right, yeah.
So this is the second fastest lap of the day.
Max Dehn has an 8:04.0 on the board. So it's maybe the third fastest lap of the day.
Well, it's still insane 2 hours into the race to set a lap time like this.
Yeah, for sure. And Dominic Ladler did an 8:10.0. Rowan de Hood did an 8:15 that lap, so he must have had a few mistakes. But Tim Schroeder really pushing for it now. Less than 20 minutes left. 16 laps on the of the race done so far. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Now, Ali Zahir is 27 seconds behind Xavier Fernandez right now on track. So he's going to start getting into a little bit of lap traffic. Not particularly quickly, but maybe before the end of this lap, possibly. If not, start of the next one. And the further along it is, the closer Tim Schroeder is going to be to him.
It will be really decisive where he encounters the traffic. 8 seconds between the two cars means they will encounter him at different corners. If he encounters him on the Döttinger Höhe, that's pretty much the best thing that can happen for Ali Zahir, but if it's before that, if it's especially through, for example, the fast downhill section after Hohe Acht, you can't just easily pass those cars. Even if they let you through, you will always lose some time. Could be a deciding factor.
Yeah, for sure. We know Tim Schroeder's not one to let an opportunity go to waste. But also, Ali Zahir is no pushover either. I mean, the time difference between the two drivers seems to have stabilized quite a lot now. I think Ali might be responding a bit to Tim Schroeder here and trying to pick up the pace a little bit.
Eight seconds between the two drivers. It's fluctuating, I think, at a standstill at the moment. But I also feel like this part of the track is roundabout where Tim Schroeder has been the weakest all day, especially thinking about his fights with Veron. After the Kesselchen uphill, he seemed to be very strong, especially through the downhill section after Hohe Acht, right up until Galgenkopf. That seems to be very... feels the best. You remember how much Tim Schroeder was worried about this being a ranked race and his brake pedal and stuff?
Yes, I do.
I don't think he does worry now.
No. To be fair, I think once the race starts, any kind of worries disappeared out of his head. The only worry he's got is that there's a car in front and he wants to overtake it. But yeah, it's try not to jinx it with 16 minutes left to go, but he's doing pretty good.
I wonder how many overtakes Enrico Boerninger had throughout the race. Because he has been in that P5 forever, and he really hasn't had any opposition coming up from behind, but he also couldn't quite keep up with the cars in front, and that was very early in the race where that happened.
That always seemed to be the place I found myself in sim racing, I've got to admit.
It seems the place where
Too slow
Enrico
to catch the
Boerninger
group ahead.
seems to find himself every time as well. So, oh, and no, haven't maybe listened to the broadcast a bit too much. But don't beach it now.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, that was close.
He should have learned from his teammate. Should not park it on the curb. Was lucky enough to get out of it as well, though. But maybe you should start driving with it, so to learn.
Yeah, Tim Schroeder's mostly red sectors so far, so he's not going to beat his 806.9 this lap, I don't think. But also Ali Zahir also all in red sectors, so I don't think he's going to beat his 807. But the gap does seem to have opened up a bit between Schroeder and Zahir. It was 8 seconds at the beginning of the lap. It's about 8.8 now. So Zahir definitely responding, I think.
I mean, they will be communicating. Sitting with
Yeah,
Dominic
for
and
sure.
Enrico in one chat call together. But yeah, for Tim Schroeder, he's lost out, I think, this lap a bit. As long as he doesn't let it set him back too much, he may be able to close in if Ali Zahir does a mistake.
Yeah. Zahir is coming through onto Dottinger right now. He's going to be able to see the number 8 car ahead of him of Javier Fernandez. Just see it. The gap between them is 13 seconds. Javier being a lap down, obviously. But he'll be hoping for a smooth overtake, preferably before the Dottinger, before the Nordschleife section of the track gets too windy and overtaking becomes a bit more risky.
It would be insane if we were to see a last lap Dottinger Höhe overtake. Cesco Monuera has about a 15-second lead to Jonah Mielke to keep him in 6th position. And for Cesco, I think this is a very relieving result if he can keep it there with 2 more laps to come.
Yeah, it's been a good performance from him for sure. And it's great to see him kind of coming on as a driver as well. The great thing about us being kind of early in development of a game and having a group of regulars has been watching them develop as racers as well as their driving skill and their racecraft.
Yeah, and with Cesco in particular, it has been super interesting because he came in, was a very solid driver, somebody you would usually expect to fight with Dennis Kurz a lot more. And where he always had the pace, he was just so misfortunate. So many RCL races where he could have, should have, would have finished better. He just was either caught up in collisions or some other issues he couldn't do anything for. So this race, he really just showed what he can do. He had great fights throughout the race. And the only thing he's missing now is to finish this race for a great result. Will also probably give him some good rating as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all of them beating Maximilian Dean will be great for the rating for a start.
Except for Maximilian Dean. But yeah, I mean,
yes.
that's been just super unfortunate. that Maximilian Dehn had his technical issues.
Yeah, for sure.
I think out of the 5 disconnects we have, 3 of them are down to PC shutting down issues, which is kind of insane.
Yeah. It may well be a heat thing as well. I mean, if people are tweaking their PCs and running them close to the limits, then this kind of hot weather is going to not be kind to them. But to give you a lap rundown, as seems to be my regular 8.5-minute thing, Ali Zahir did a 7.3 last lap, which is only 0.2 slower than his best lap. Tim Schroeder slipped into the 08's dead. Dominic Ladler did an 09.7. So Zahir definitely responding to Tim Schroeder's quicker pace there. And you can see that in the gaps. He's stabilized a bit more at about 8.8.
There's been the question whether there will be another Nürburgring 2.4 hours, and while I can't say for certain, I wouldn't rule it out that there will be another this year. But even if it's not a 2.4 hour race, we of course always have a bigger season finale. We had the 2-hour race last season to close out season 1.
Lino just having some technical issues there with his throat, by the sound of it. I'm sure we'll be back in a second.
Yeah, thank you. I just noticed the cable slipped out of my microphone, actually. But there's been the question whether the 2.4 hour will return. Whether it will be a 2.4 hour or not, that is up to discussions. But of course, every Nordschleife league has its dedicated finale. Last time it was the 2-hour race, now it's the 2.4 hour race because it coincided very well. You will see what comes up next. I wouldn't rule it out. But yeah, Alizaya now running into traffic.
Yeah, he's done a couple of early flashes just to let him know he's coming. But it's not one of the easiest overtaking positions on the Nordschleife, and he's not going to want to hang around. He definitely won't want to give Tim Schroeder any more hope of an overtake.
He will encounter him through Kesselchen. It's a very interesting spot to be in, but
I suppose if there's any saving grace, it's that he got a little bit of a drag up the hill with a bit of a draft, so he might be able to gain a couple of kilometers out of that.
actually it was pretty good because Fernandez led him through very early,
Yeah.
so he got the slingshot basically. And up this hill, every kilometer an hour counts, every single rev you can get. .5 seconds. We are on lap 17. But as it seems, we won't retire the...
Oh, Xavier Fernandez, the first and only driver in the race to have got a penalty so far.
It is just a
It's,
15-second penalty, so it won't lose him any positions.
No, it won't make any difference to the race at all. Oh no, Johan Milik has also got a 15-second penalty, and Dennis Kurtz is 20 seconds behind him.
Of course, Dennis Kurtzer doesn't know it, but if Jonas Mielke does, make a mistake, then things look different.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure they're passing here.
Oh.
And I see on your screen John America. Oh, and that was Javier Fernandez just missing his breakpoint.
Yeah.
Spun round on the Grand Prix circuit, and Dennis Kurzer will gain lots in the Delta.
Yeah, for sure. He's still not within the 15 seconds, but he's pretty close.
Tim Schroeder has taken another 2 seconds out of Alizaya.
Yes. You're entirely right.
Gap for P7, 18.5 seconds. He has to find 3.5 seconds in 2 laps somewhere.
So I've got Alizar here just coming into Tiergarten now. 5 minutes left, so they'll probably have, well, they'll have one more lap after this. And that'll be the end of the race, I believe, which will put it on 19 laps.
No, we're currently on 17, so it will be 18 laps.
No, but they've just finished the 18th, haven't they? Or is it they're just starting the 18th?
They're just starting
I
the
forgot.
18th.
They've just started the 18th.
We've had a long stint here in the commentary booth. You have to forgive us a bit for being confused.
I couldn't remember if it counted laps done or the lap you were just doing.
Tim Schroeder just took another half a second out of Alizar. 6 seconds in 1 lap is kind of insane to ask for, but the pace is there.
Well, according to the lap times, Ali Zahir did a 10.7 last lap, and Tim Schroeder did an 8.2. They were about 8 seconds apart, and now they're just under 6 seconds apart. So that does kind of tally up. Dominic Ladler, no disrespect to him, he's doing 8 or 9.9 again. So he's definitely been very consistent in his pace, except for a little bit in the night, which is kind of understandable. These guys probably haven't driven a lot of Nordschleife at night. Well, their consistency of pace during the day is definitely greater.
Let's go on board with Tim Schroeder here in the hunt of Alizar. Listen to that 6.2 liter V8 for a bit more until we finish out this race. But maybe just a recap of what have happened. We have had constant fighting for the first half an hour. 3-way fights, 4-way fights, especially up front. Couldn't really predict what happened. Then we had suddenly the phase of technical issues very early in the race. Coincidentally, what happened in the real race as well. But yeah, then things, when they calmed down, we still had lots of battles up and down the field, especially in the mid-pack, one-on-one fights. What do you think we can take away from this going into maybe Spa, maybe other 2.4 hour races coming our way in the future, and especially the next Nordschleife season?
Well, I think one thing that will be very different between this and Spa is the amount of the effect that lapped traffic will have on the race. I mean, here it's certain person who I disqualified aside, the lapped traffic is not something that happens particularly often, whereas in Spa it's a lot shorter and you're going to have to deal with lap traffic a lot more. So I think that being able to safely get past other cars is going to be super important in Spa, probably more so than here. But also just be ready for anything. I think pretty much anything that can happen has happened today. And well, I know part of that's the Nordschleife always delivers a pretty crazy race, but yeah, just prepare yourself mentally for pretty much anything happening.
I think that's a very good key point, a very good takeaway. Let's just take a look at what the next season actually gives us in terms of races. Season 3, we will go back to 5 races and we will kick it off with the GT3X. There were a couple of instances where you could try it for free. So if you enjoyed it, you have your chance to give it a shot at the Nordschleife on the 5th of July when we go back to racing in the Green Hell. And then GT4s, 45-minute races, GT3s, the casual 60-minute race. We are back with the M2s. Remco told us a story about it earlier, going side by side with Rwanda and Hood through Mood Kurve and making a little drift show out of it. And I think the M2 always delivered, so I'm happy to have them back. And then a 90-minute race, so a bit easier on the drivers, to close the season out on the 30th of August. So a bit of a highlight season, I'd say.
Yeah, it's good to have the GT3X in there because it is just a really fun car to drive. I keep forgetting how fun it is, and then every time I drive it, I'm like, oh yeah, it always was fun. GT4s and M2s, always. I'm a fan of the slower cars. I know it's weird calling a GT4 a slower car, but I like the racing that it creates, and finishing off with a bit of, well, mid-season and finishing with some GT3, always fun. Everyone loves GT3, always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, and I mean, after that, we will be getting closer and closer to launch. So...
Yes. And that.
And that also exists. But yeah, one final time down the hill, 5.3 seconds between Tim Schroeder and Ali Zaya for the lead. But unless something big happens, Ali Zaya should be fine to take the win.
Yeah.
They're closing in on OG Stan.
Oh. And I've just noticed that Rowan de Hood has a 15-second penalty now. Going over the track limit. Again, it's not going to affect his position. Enrico Breininger is 40 seconds behind him, but worth mentioning.
Tim Schroeder is still gaining on Aliza here, 5.1 seconds. Oh, but very high on the curbing. I think Ali's not backing down of this. And we've seen earlier what this could lead to.
Yeah, well, he's coming round onto Dottinger now, so he's probably tasting victory. You can see it.
think 5 seconds. That is too much.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to make that back in this. And OG stand waiting so he doesn't have to do another lap.
There he is. Passed by Alizaya. But it will be Alizaya taking the checkered flag and winning the 2.4 Nordschleife. Tim Schroeder starting from way down the grid, finishing P2. What a race these two have put on in there. 2023 Beast of the Green Hell liveries, now proud owners of the 2025 Purple Beast. And Dominik Ladler, he had to do a lot for it, but a well-deserved podium finish yet again. One of the most consistent scorers there is. And he strikes again. Otis then came home in 9th. And won on it. Even with that time penalty, he will come home in 4th. I think this has to be one of the most daring 2.4-hour races to go up against. Challenging track, challenging conditions, and very hot in most environments.
Yeah, for sure. It was not an easy one for the drivers, that is for definite.
Doing a nice podium there. I'm trying to figure out how to do it best.
You're the wrong person to ask about this thing, you know.
What is that supposed to mean?
I've been on your photo shoots. Left a bit, right a bit, forward a bit, then back a bit, back a bit. No, not that much. Forward a bit more.
Has to be perfect. Enrico Borniga. Lonely race, but a very, very good result there for him. So just confirming some positions until I give you the final results. Same goes, of course, for the second split, which I will give you the finishing order of the podium in just a second. Because Ikazu actually overtook Alderizio in the closing stages of the races. So Ikazu in front of Alderizio and then Zadaibe closing out the podium.
That was a nice finish for Zadaibe there. Glad to see him be on the podium.
Very, very much so. Really has been a very fun race to commentate on, to follow the action.
It has. It's been a crazy one, but it's been a fun one. Going into a 2.4-hour commentary can be a bit daunting, but the time has kind of flown by, I've got to admit.
Indeed, and I mean, the racing action for today isn't over, because you still have the 24-hour Nordschleife to follow if you want to see more Nordschleife action. And if you want to see more RENNSPORT action, tomorrow at 8 PM we will have our RENNSPORT community event. So still plenty of racing action throughout the weekend to follow. But let's take a final look at the standings for RNL Season 2. We crown a new champion, or we crown an old champion, rather said. Dominik Ladler on 115 points, taking the crown once again. And then it's Ali Zahir with that win, securing second in the championship. I think there will be some stuff people talk about after this race, but everybody who finished and everybody who contended can be very happy. Deliveries will go out tomorrow for participating. If you want to get your hands on the Purple Beast delivery but couldn't drive today, make sure to set a clean lap on the time trial leaderboard. The current best lap being set by Sven Gehört, an 8:00.988, and you can try your hands at beating one of our R1 drivers. Moritz Löhner today went in and set an 8:02.3. Try your hands at it, it's a lot of fun. You can do it for free until Wednesday. So, do you have any final words you want to share with us, closing out this season, closing out this chapter?
No, thank you for everyone who took part. Thanks for the people who watched. Thank you very much for taking part in one way or another. And it's been some fantastic racing. I'll see you back next season. And if anybody else wants to take part, join in. It's fun.
Indeed. Nordschleife is going to continue, RCL is going to continue, and of course RCEs are going to continue. It's been a pleasure to be here together with not only you, Tim, but of course also Remco, who accompanied us through the early stages of the race. And we will be back. Until then, enjoy the time, and goodbye.
Goodbye.